All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the Front Range Fire Rescue Inclusion Dissolution hearing. It's Wednesday, April 12th, 2017, and we're here at 112 Avenue, Johnstown, Colorado.
I want to welcome you all here tonight. We're all a little bit off balance. We got a fire this afternoon that necessitated me running home and cleaning the organic material off my feet. But I threw a picture in here at the last minute. Everybody here was out of this job this afternoon on the east side of Milliken. I want to begin by saying thank you. First of all, to so many people here, A, for your attendance, but also some who may have sent me email questions or written letters and asked me questions, but most of all for your engagement in this process. Thank you. To staff, for miles and miles of logistical support and assistance in refining this presentation and setting up all the stuff we have here today. We weren't really sure how many people from the public would come, and we normally rotate meetings back and forth between here at Station 2 and Milliken, and we weren't sure if the space here would accommodate, so we wanted to set up down here today, and we also didn't want to put the PowerPoint presentation on the wall. So thank you to all the crew here in the back who spent a lot of time setting this up for us today. Also to Christine and Chicago especially, who spent a lot of time helping me wordsmith things. I'm the English major, but sometimes I get stuck, and they helped me a tremendous amount, so thank you both. To legal counsel for dotting the I's and crossing the T's, John and Kathy, I appreciate all the work that you've done in getting us to this point. Kurt, I know you and Kathy are new to the team, but thank you as well. And mainly to the board, finally to the board, for allowing us the time and time again to challenge the status quo and be remarkable. It's a Seth Godin quote that I've taken and pilfered here and again, but thank you for allowing us to challenge the status quo and time and again be remarkable. Of note, we typically audio record our board meetings. It helps Vanessa take the notes, but tonight we are recording just this part of the presentation for educational purposes on social media. I've heard at least 2 to 3 stories of people coming into the stations and asking our firefighters, who are really good at what they do, what's going on with this inclusion and dissolution process? Can you educate me? And they don't really have the ability to speak to that. So I'd like to have this PowerPoint and this presentation available online so that they can just simply say, hey, the chief spoke to this stuff. Go check out our Facebook page, go check out our Twitter feed, and he hopefully will answer your questions. So the objectives that I have in this presentation are talking about a little bit about the history. And it's just going to be the last 15 to 17 years. Before that, it's well before I landed here in Colorado, and it becomes anecdotal, and it's not really certain what it is. Why we started dating. I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of a combination fire department and why we got engaged. The balance of the presentation, the latter half at least, are questions and comments that I've received from the public, as I mentioned. So that's the lion's share of it. I haven't changed the questions. I've whittled them down and wordsmithed them just a little bit so they fit onto the page, but I haven't shied away from any of them. And that's the latter part of the presentation. We'll wrap it up with a conclusion. Those of the fire department here that know me know that I always teach class and start out with quotations of David Whyte's, a Scots-Irish poet. And I love this quote, that a beautiful question shapes a beautiful mind, and the ability to ask beautiful questions is one of the great disciplines of human life. And if I tweak that to fit my situation, our situation here tonight, and frame it most bestly, what if I ask a collaborative question shapes a collaborative mind? And so the ability to ask collaborative questions is one of the great disciplines for us here at the Front Range Fire Rescue Authority. And I think that that's a cornerstone of where we start off and jump off from this conversation tonight, is our ability to speak collaboratively. So history. I've worked my best to get this correct. So those of you who are here before me, Director Howe, Director Rudd, Director Young, whomever else, Director Weber, I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've really worked to get some of the history of the last 15 to 17 years in this presentation. Why we started this relationship. So in late 2002, Milliken hired its first regular full-time operational staff. They hired 4 people. And over the years, they used various staffing models. A couple at this station, a couple at that station, mainly for daytime and weekday coverage. Sometimes in 2003 and 2004, Milliken issued a 20-year bond for the construction of the station in Milliken. And this is important because this is a little thing that we'll come back to later. This is a separate mill levy that is assessed. And it's assessed to people who even lie outside the bounds of the current Milliken Fire Protection District. So some of those areas in West Greeley have since been annexed into the city of Greeley. But they issued this bond for the construction of the station that we call Station 2, which is the Milliken Station. In June of 2008,
Weather 4201, 4231, 4260, front range 2931. Respondent 501 Chimney Park Drive, southeast corner of Chimney Park. 501 Chimney Park Drive, and a ground cover fire in a small fire near the canal. AC 29.
all right. In June of 2008, just about the time barbecue days was going on here in Johnstown, Johnstown hired its first full-time operational staff. And similar to Milliken, daytime and weekday coverage. The same week, back in 2009, the board of directors of Milliken made an offer to me on Good Friday, and I elected to become and move out here, the first full-time chief in Milliken Fire Protection District. I got on the ground about 6 weeks later, and I became the agency's first full-time fire chief. I want to set kind of a baseline here based on the number of calls that we ran that particular year. Johnstown did 635, and Milliken did 460, for a total of about 1,095 calls per service. In the fall of 2010, Milliken asked an unsuccessful mill levy question. Milliken asked 2 questions that year, and one of them passed. It was a debruising question, and one was a mill levy increase question, and that failed. Oh, you hit the blackout button. June of 2011, Johnstown votes to job share my services as fire chief. That was the time that Chief Rutt decided to retire. Chief Robb, his assistant chief, decided to retire and move to the Pacific Northwest. And Chief Class, who did a lot of administrative work. All 3 decided to leave, and there was an absence of leadership. There was a need to save some money in Milliken, and so we started this first piece of this engagement where I was shared the intergovernmental agreement. In the fall of 2011, Milliken asked another question, and that one was successful.
You showed them out. I believe this is going to be the same for Sheriff Burns from earlier. Or 2031.
Wouldn't be a fire station if they didn't get calls and we didn't have to pause and kind of talk over. In the fall of 2012, Milliken was successful in a SAFER grant for 3 personnel. That was all salary and benefits for 3 people for 2 years. This is an important thing, not least of which is about $30,000 grant that we were successful in getting. Okay. Thank you. It's important not just because of the money that we got, but also because it put 3 operational people in both places, in Johnstown and Milliken. So our operational reality from a pay perspective was very similar. Because we're going to talk about some dissimilarities here in a few minutes. That same fall, we began discussion with Windsor Severance for a new ALS transport provider. I don't know if anybody remembers that whole discussion with the county about providing our own ambulances. We've got one of our 3 ambulances parked behind the stage here tonight. That discussion came to fruition May 15th of 2013, where we started to have ambulance providers responding from within the station and outside. It's worth mentioning that the 90th percentile response time was 19 minutes in Milliken and 22 minutes in Johnstown in the 6 months preceding our move to UC Health. It's almost half that now, less than half that. So this was a big deal for us and a lot of our successes. A few months later, we began to share other personnel. Chief Cavillo as an operations chief, Chief Prather as support services chief, and then our part-time training officer was the captain. We began to share them in January of 14. The following month, the board of directors from both departments voted to form the fire authority. So that decision was made to move forward with the authority in February of 14. We worked a lot that year, and I'll talk about one of the specific groups later on in one of the questions that we received. But the authority was voted, and the IGA was signed in November of 2014 to begin in January of 2015. The fall of that year, Johnstown asked a successful mill levy question. And just to compare to the 8 years preceding, in 2009, we ran 2,007 calls for service last year. So if you just extrapolate that over 8 years and divide it out, it's about a 10.5% increase in calls every year. So we had a lot of early successes together that really affirmed the relationship for the membership in the department, but also for the board. We had a medical call, and I'm going to speak to a couple of these here a little bit more than the others. One of the first ones that I remember happened in March of 2012, where we had a cardiac arrest on Parrish Avenue here in Johnstown. And the crew who was here at Johnstown that time, that was when I still had a Johnstown patch on one arm and a Milliken patch on the other, but we had begun to trust each other. The crew was on a different call, and I believe it was something benign. It wasn't a serious medical call, and this serious medical call came in a Parrish. And the relationship had developed to the point where the folks from Johnstown or Milliken were situationally aware of what was going on and started this direction. They ended up landing in a helicopter downtown Johnstown, flying this woman to the hospital. And I think the following Deacon Dean Day of our case it was, we actually did a big presentation and recognized those folks here for saving her life. And that was one of the first incredible success stories of our partnership. There's a medical call on County Road 46. I'm going to come back to this structure fire here, which I have a picture of from May of 13. A medical call on County Road 36, which is way far south, almost Mountain View's district. And it was actually a concurrent call. We shot the guy, and we recognized the crew for saving his life a few months later. Medical call in 2013, and then a mass casualty incident where we had 3 boys who were electrocuted on County Road 15 in May of 14. But if I could talk about this structure fire, because these all are medical calls. This structure fire came in Johnstown in May of 2013, just before, I think it was about 5:30 in the morning. And it was a unique day in that there were only 3 paid staff members on in both departments. Normally we have a reserve or a volunteer that complements our staffing model. But that was a morning where the crew here had 3 and the crew in Milliken had 3. Chief Cavillo responded from home that morning. What had happened is the fire had started on this front porch and extended up into the soffit and got into the attic space here. The crew from this engine got on scene, stretched the line to the front door. They were given the thumbs up that everybody was out of the house and was okay. That's the big news we want to hear. Chief Cavillo, I can remember as I'm following Loveland Ladder 6, who's on scene here, down the interstate en route, can hear him asking the crew, saying, "What you got in there? Because I'm seeing it starting to get through the roof. I might have to make you go defensive." Which is where we switched from being in an immediately dangerous to life and health environment of being inside a building to being outside. The crew said, "Give me just a minute, we need a second line." That engine from Milliken showed up on scene with 3 people, stretched that second line, got in that attic space with that first line, and they saved that house. And so this was an affirmation, once again, that what we were doing was working. The evolution of a combination fire department. I could talk about this for a long, long period of time. But we're going to call this why we got engaged. There are specific decision points for a board, for a fire chief, for the leadership team of a fire department as a fire department evolves from some 100% volunteer reality to some paid staff members to some unpaid volunteer or reserve members. A lot of times that revolves around the calls for service that may exceed the member's ability to respond. As you saw, we went from just over 1,000 calls or 1,100 calls to over 2,000 last year. The call volume is certainly one of those things. Responder disposition is certainly one of those decision points. And what I mean by that is, where do the members live in the district? Or are they working elsewhere? Chief Cavell and I took a few minutes yesterday to look and see 30% of our paid staff members now live in the Front Range Fire Rescue Authority. And about 20% of our reserve or volunteer staff live in the district. We have members, one yesterday who was up from Denver, and one who lives in Severance. So they live elsewhere. Obviously, when time is of the essence in our line of work, that's a relative discussion and decision point. Training requirements. It's one thing, I'd like to be an astronaut, but I'm not qualified to be an astronaut. We ask for our people to demonstrate a set of skills at their given level of engagement in the organization. As a fire chief, I have a Fire Officer 2 certification. All of our company officers, our captains have their Fire Officer 2 certification. I'm looking back here for affirmation. Our lieutenants, Fire Officer 1. All of our engineers were required to have driver operator, utility, pumper, and aerial. That's a lot of training. But it leads nicely into the next bullet point here, which is the legal reality. When something goes wrong, God forbid that it ever happens to go wrong, we want to be able to say, yes, we trained these people to a certain cognitive and psychomotor skill set. National standards. NFPA 1720 is a standard that speaks mostly to volunteer and combination agencies. 1710 is all career agencies. And what I mean by this 10-10-80 here is our standard and our litmus test for getting people to the scene is 10 people on scene within 10 minutes, 80% of the time. It's a challenge. It is an incredible challenge to do that. So it's national standards. One of the national standards when we apply for the grants is how many people in your department are firefighter 1 certified. So to get into the grant pool, as we've been successful with federal AFG grants, SAFER grants, and even locally EMTS grants to re-chassis and refurb trucks, ask those questions. Do you work to a set of standards? And we can say that clearly. Safety is probably the big thing as well. This is not a line of work where you do it with just 1 or 2 people. We had a fire this afternoon. I showed you a picture of that. The guy from the Greeley Tribune asked me, and I was trying to do some mental math in my head as I was driving over here. And I think we had 15 people on scene. We had a couple of apparatus come over from Plateau Hillcrest, but I think we had 15 people on scene. And they did incredible work. And culture. And culture is a big thing for me. I tell Chief Cavell all the time, culture eats strategy. And our culture here is top shelf. One of the things that I heard in the late summer of 2009 was when I extrapolated the career staff over in Milliken across the 7 days of the week is he's taking our weekends. So sometimes that culture can change the evolution of a fire department as well. I think this is the crux of how we talk about evolution of a fire department, because we've got a picture down here of a couple of our older apparatus and a couple of the new ones. This also shows the talent of one of our board members who took these great pictures for us too. Thank you, JJ. But anytime you speak of evolution, it's implied that you've moved from one point on a continuum to some different, better, or higher point on the same continuum. And that's a tough thing to talk about, and it really is. And so I walk around these things trying to pay homage and respect to the people who have come before us. Now, one of my undergraduate degrees is in economics, so I like to put things in simple graphic formula. There's a finite amount of money out there. And if you broke it down into just a simple dichotomy, do I spend money on people on one hand, or do I spend money on equipment on the other hand? And you put it on a graph like this, Milliken elected to hire more people to do the service 6 years earlier than Johnstown. And Johnstown elected to invest in the equipment and the financial reserves. In my early days here in Colorado with both of these agencies, Milliken was more adequately suited to respond 24 hours a day to calls for service, but Johnstown was far better equipped and more able to withstand dramatic fluctuations and assessed value, which is a big thing that we deal with here with gas and oil in these two districts. I think that's an important thing to understand because it's left us in a specific space. The investment in people had a twofold financial effect in Milliken. Less than ideal equipment and apparatus. And I pulled this run report up and I highlighted it because it's not just some anecdotal thing. This is the reality. That Milliken's engine left to go to a structure fire call, and it says within a half mile of exiting the station, 2902 displayed a check engine light. Engineer Serrato slowed the vehicle, came to a complete stop, and shut the engine down. They turned it back on. They were able to proceed. They got on scene of the fire. And this other highlight down here says that the officer's radio malfunctioned. So this notion that equipment was less than ideal, as was apparatus, is spot on. And this run report affirms that. The decision to have people in the station had a twofold financial effect. And number one was this less than ideal equipment and apparatus. Number two was there was little or no financial reserve. Once again, I like to say things. I'm going to write my biography one day because nobody's going to believe it. Kids won't. These are the statement of accounts for Milliken from February 29th, 2012. The total sum of all of Milliken's money in the bank was $32,000, $32,434. That may be a lot to some individual human being in this room. But when payroll is twice a month, and payroll is $19,000 a month, that is not a lot of money. And I offered the board at that time, don't pay me, as I can go without a paycheck for a while, pay the staff. The attorney's office said, we'll pay us in April. But this was the financial reality of the department at that point. The election had passed in the fall of 2011, but the lion's share of the revenue had not started to come in. It's not anecdotal information, but it's fact. I offered to not get paid. Now when we think about two paths, we often think Robert Frost's two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled. I like to think of the paths more like this when I think about these two departments coming together as opposed to diverging. And we met each other at the perfect time. One thing I want to share before I go into the questions, which I think fleshed out the rest of why we wanted to move forward with this inclusion and dissolution process, is our vision. I sent an email out to the department in December of 2015, and in that, and I've asked questions in the interview panels subsequently, I said, together we will further evolve a culture and a structure that outlasts us. And I've said before, and I will say it again, and I will say it from the mountaintops, our culture here is second to none. I'm not saying our culture is better, but I'm not saying that there's a culture out there that's better than this organization. And I can say that. And it's not just a doting father, which these guys accuse me of all the time. I've managed a bookstore, I've managed a hotel, I was an Army lieutenant, I've managed all kinds in the fire service, and I have a master's degree in leadership. I understand culture, and our culture is second to none. But our structure needs shoring up, and that's why we're here tonight. Our culture is good, but our structure needs shoring up. That's our vision here. So the questions. Why did you name it the Front Range Fire Rescue? In 2014, in February of that year, several work groups were established. Some to look at apparatus, some to look at the volunteer piece of the puzzle. One was assigned to identity and values. I just put a couple of the short list of possible names I came up with: Frontier Fire Rescue, Pioneer Fire Rescue, Two Rivers Fire Rescue. We elected that the best and most safe way to not perpetuate any discord, real or perceived, between these two communities was to choose a neutral path. And that's why we chose the Front Range Fire Rescue. One of my friends at Rotary gave me a hard time shortly after that and said, I don't like the name. And I told him I cared less about the name on a door as I did about the people and their culture and the values and their ability to do the job right in the truck. So we didn't want to create more discord by putting one person's name in front of the other person's name. We chose a neutral path. Aren't you already merged? Well, no. The Johnstown and Milliken Fire Protection District still exists as the funding conduits for the Front Range Fire Rescue Authority. When we prepare our budget packet every year, we prepare a budget for Johnstown, one for Milliken, and one for the authority. We have to do audits for those two things. That's one of the cost savings of this potential marriage. The IGA forming the authority provides for a termination of the entity with a majority plus one of one of the boards. So we aren't merged, we all still exist. So why did we form it in the first place? One of the big buzz phrases in the county, and we were talking about doing our own ambulance service, was effective, efficient, and coordinated response. And I like that, and I like that's one of the reasons that we did this. This is the one that really resonates with me. We wanted to better achieve what we believe to be the expectations of the public when it came to our service. We thought they wanted a rock star fire department. So we did. Last year was we sent out surveys. When people are captive in line here waiting for pancakes on beef and bean, or barbecue days, and over there beef and bean days, we had 150 surveys. And Christine and our other admin person, Leanne, put all those together. 82.6% of people said exactly what we believe, that they expect the same level of service from my combination fire department that they may receive from a larger department. We asked where one of the bars set. We set the bar at that spot. More than 4 out of every 5. The successes that we've shared already, and I'll share a few more here at the end, but the successes that we shared, and most importantly, especially for Chief Cavillo and I, not to diminish Chief Drake, he's new here, but operationally speaking, we want our folks to go home safely at night. It's a very, very big thing for why we do what we do. Who initiated the idea of forming a single district? Well, the IGA that created the authority and was signed in November of 2014 in paragraph 8.1 states that the districts desire to take the necessary steps to combine Milliken and Johnstown into a single unified fire protection district that will serve the geographic area of the authority as it exists at the time of unification. So that document spoke to this desire to do this sometime down the road. Continuing with that same question, you could put all in one slide. In November of last year, we reported to the board, and I reminded them that we are tasked every day with reducing operational vulnerabilities. Someone calls in sick, we need to get someone in here to fill that seat to do the job. If we send a brush truck over to Sedona Hills or the Perth Ridge fire, we need to have someone over here to replace them. We've managed those operational vulnerabilities, but we've left open a strategic vulnerability. A separation, a divorce, a dissolution of our arrangement would be catastrophic. In November of that same month, the board directed the administration to have our attorneys prepare legal options to complete a merger. So they did that. They gave us 3 options. They presented this in a document to the board in the December board meeting. The first was called an administrative property transfer. It's the least transparent, but it has been used extensively around the state to accomplish a similar end state. The council said to us, it's not transparent at all, we don't recommend this one, don't do this. Even though everybody else is doing it, not good for you. The second was a consolidation and a creation of a new district. So Milliken votes to dissolve, Johnstown votes to dissolve, and we vote to form a new district. Most transparent, but most expensive. So we're sending things to people and voters in both districts. The one that we chose was the third option, the inclusion dissolution. Very transparent, but less expensive as an election is only being conducted in one district. So less moving parts, but still very transparent, which is why we're all here tonight. Send this documentation and information out, and everybody gets to be involved in the process in some capacity, asking questions and addressing the board. Why are you dissolving Milliken and not Johnstown? Well, the mill levy piece is certainly a piece of it. Using this year's numbers, this year's assessed value in the Johnstown Fire Protection District, which is a sliver in Larimer County and most in Weld, it's about $192 million. If we lower the Johnstown mill to the Milliken mill, there will be a loss of about $140,000 in revenue. Our revenue, our assessed value already dropped from last year to this year to the tune, I think, of about 3 or 4%. So we'd already lost $200,000. Another $140,000 was significant. That's a number of positions. $140,000 is not quite 3 tail-end riding firefighters. The structure of the revenue allocation in Johnstown has proven successful. We'll see this on a slide here in just a minute. Johnstown has some money that's encumbered for capital. And it was one of the ways that the board here set up such an incredible fleet, was having dedicated money to capital. So that structure has been proven successful. There's also an existing IGA that speaks to revenue sharing at 25-30-40. And that if we dissolve Johnstown, we may compromise or negate that IGA. So those of you who don't know, even though that area is the town of Johnstown, we don't cover that area. It's covered by Loveland Rural Fire. So we got rid of Johnstown, that IGA from the year 2000 may be negated. I have heard that units will be responding only from Johnstown. Absolutely incorrect. Christine still has at least 3 calls from homeowners saying, I heard that people are just coming from Johnstown. That is absolutely incorrect. There are no planned changes to our current staffing model. Right now we have 4 members on Engine 1, which is right here, in this bay that we're all sitting in, and 3 on Engine 2. Now that's before we get to our reserve or volunteer staffing. Yesterday they had a reserve and a volunteer in both places. But that's our staffing model right now on the engines. 4 here and 3 in Milliken. We are continuously discussing 2 things with regards to deployment. How we better serve without compromising safety, those District 3, which for us is that area on the far east side of Two Rivers Parkway. And how do we consistently put a strategic incident commander into place? So a strategic incident commander is a person outside the hazard zone who's providing for and watching the conditions, just like on that Woodbine fire. Chief Cavolo was the strategic incident commander that morning, seeing the fire starting to come through the roof. Do I need to move those folks into a safe place? These are the 2 things that we discuss when we talk about deployment. I asked Chief Cavolo, are you comfortable with these questions? He nodded to me. These are what we talk about. But there is no plans that units will only be responding from Johnstown. We were twice promised better service in Highland Park. True, at least as I understand it. But I can only speak to the 2011 campaign. I got this question from one of our members in Milliken who's been there for a long time, who I think was involved with the mill levy campaign in 2000, or the station bill campaign in 2003, 2004, and he's the one that asked me this question. And in truth, we were wrong. There's not enough money to fund personnel and new equipment. We have a complex challenge. The station in Milliken is a challenge that we inherited as a leadership team. It's 1.4 miles west of where it was originally planned to be. It's going to be out near the TRPR administration building. And Station 3 has been remodeled in some capacity and suited for people to, sit on the couch and so forth in there. But there's not room for a kitchen table. The bay doors are small. It's tough. You couldn't fit these trucks into that station. So this is a challenge for us. I feel that our work will be lost and forgotten in this merger. We fully understand the complexities of how we best honor tradition, lead change, as my friend Jason Boyle would say. We have time and again, from funeral services to retirement send-offs, endeavored to acknowledge the service of those who have come before us. And we have every intention of continuing along that same path. I feel that Johnstown is paying more than Milliken. So this is where the discussion can get a little slippery. As I mentioned to you before, Johnstown has some money allocated to capital, 2.0 mil. We have to allocate at least 1/4 of 1 mil, 0.25 mils to the Johnstown pension. For the last couple of years, we've allocated 1/2 mil. The balance is the operations. So the total mill levy in Johnstown is 11.461. The general mill levy in Milliken is 10.745. As I spoke earlier, that 20-year bond is 0.855. So you add those together and you say, yeah, I pay 11.6 for fire and fire protection. But when you're comparing apples to apples here, the numbers that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that we have to concentrate and focus on. And there's a difference of 0.716 between Milliken and Johnstown. So how big is the tax increase? So first of all, people in Johnstown ask me, I got to pay another tax increase. You just asked for one a couple of years ago. And it's no, this is a question to Milliken. And it would just be 0.716 of a mil, bringing up the par as we saw in that last slide to 11.461 with Johnstown. I picked out a house in East Milliken, looked it up on Zillow, it's $267,000. The assessed value, I went and looked at the same address according to Will County GIS mapping. The assessed value of that house was $14,930. Take that figure and multiply it times 0.000716, it's $10.69. So that's a snapshot. If your house is far more or far less, we will be happy to answer that question and show you how to navigate around that GIS site. Jessica will help me figure it out. I don't want to pay taxes to Johnstown or Milliken. We deliberately crafted this relationship in transformational terms as opposed to transactional terms. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that Loveland Rescue has a fire authority as well. And they have a revenue allocation formula where the city of Loveland pays 82% of the bill and the rural fire district pays 18%. That's fine, it works for them. But we steered clear of that because I think it's a recipe for the relationship breaking. As it stands, the operational contributions almost mirror our call volume. Chief Cavillo does a wonderful job of tracking statistics for me, for us. District 1 is the lion's share of Johnstown. This is from 2016. District 2 is the main part of Milliken, and District 3 is those parts east of Two Rivers Parkway. There are some slivers of District 2 that will be within the Johnstown Fire Protection District because it's basically County Road 19 north-south. So 257 and 54 is a horrible intersection for us. We've been there way too many times over the years, some incredibly bad car accidents. That would be in District 2, even though that would be in the Johnstown Fire Protection District. So as you see, the operational contributions to the authority's budget, 59 to 41%, almost mirror the call volume. It's impossible to really say where tax dollars start and stop. Last year, Bertha had two big wildland fires, Bertha Ridge and Sedona. And I know on one of them we sent 2 brush trucks. This is bad. And I don't know anybody in northern Colorado who doesn't go when their neighbor asks. And were we paying taxes for Bertha? I don't know. They come over when we ask them to. They came over and helped us pull a couple of people out of the water. Chief Prater was there when the flood happened. So this is a slippery slope, and I think this is the best amount of information I can give you when it comes to I don't want to pay taxes here versus there. that it does align nicely with the way the calls fall within the Fire Rescue Authority. Why didn't you ask for less in Johnstown in 2015? This is a very valid question. So Johnstown asked for 2 mills in 2015 to put the fourth person on the truck here. It was decided at that time that those 2 mills were needed to accomplish the things that were set forth on that ballot. Should we have just increased it 1.2 or whatever so that they were equal now? Perhaps. But our mill levies at 10,745 and 11,461 are below the average, which is 11.86 based on my math, of our most similar surrounding neighbors. That's being Windsor, Frederick Firestone, Mountain View, Berthoud, and Evans. Evans is 15.5. Windsor's less. Some of those gas and oil, I said most similar neighbors from the gas and oil rich communities far east of us, far lower mill levies. But our most similar surrounding neighbors, we're still below them. So why are you forming why are you forming a single district? This is where I'm going to start to wrap this up because I think that I've addressed all the questions that have come to me and to us. This is an incredibly important housekeeping thing. I got to realize this yesterday that my wife and I are fortunate to have this polybutylene piping in our house, and we find out this going to cost us $6,000 or $8,000 or $10,000 to replace it. And I'm not one to let a personal challenge get in the way of sharing it as a public analogy. And I think this is perfect because the plumbing's working fine at our house right now, just like the service is working fine here. And we can choose to ignore this and cross our fingers and hope that it doesn't bust because it rots from the inside, as I understand it. Or we can be proactive, which is why we're here tonight to talk about this. That there is a hanging chad out there, and there is the potential for someone to come along with less altruistic notions and to dissolve this reality. So this is why we're doing it. Because we've got pipes behind the walls. Everything looks like it's fine, but they might burst. Somebody can come along and vote to dissolve this, and it's going to be incredibly painful for both communities. I want to finish with a couple of slides here, furthering this question of why we're doing it. I said, look, not even a month back, they had 2 calls in Milliken. I can speak less about the first one than I can about the second one because I don't have medical release information here and I need to be sensitive of that. But the Milliken engine was on a medical call, engine 2, and another EMS call came in 13 minutes later. And this engine, right here, from Johnstown, took that second call and arrived on scene within 10 minutes. This concurrent call reality is the name of the game for us nowadays. Within a week of that happening, both these calls, like I said, in the last month, engine 2, this crew right here sitting in the back of the station today, was en route to a serious EMS call, 11 o'clock at night or so, and a structure fire was reported in Milliken. Ladder 8, this truck right here, the command vehicle, and Medic 1, the ambulance here, all responded from Johnstown and arrived on scene in 11 minutes. 7 people. The house was on fire. The homeowner sprayed water on it and got most of it out, but they had readings on the thermal imaging camera well over 200 degrees and some stuff in the void spaces, as I understand it, that those firefighters came and took care of it. So this notion of we aren't our neighbor's keeper doesn't apply because we are. And it's worked. And these are 2 examples just in the last 30 days. This is why we're doing this, and this is why we're here. As I give this back to the board, I think it's relevant that we speak to the language of the resolution, the petition that the attorneys crafted for us. And this language says that we're working towards greater operational efficiencies, strengthening the resulting combined district's financial position based upon projections of development in the area. We have 7% commercial property. We'd love to have shields. We don't have that. Gallagher is a challenge that's on the horizon for us in terms of the amendment that they ratcheted down the residential assessment rates. This is the projections that we're seeing. And then we believe that this is in the best interest and health and safety and welfare of the citizens. So time and again, just ask, and I said last 2 Fridays ago, that these guys, I think, were just like me when I was riding on a fire engine. They just want the means to change lives when we're asked to do so. And we're thankful to the board for the opportunities you've given us to do that. We think that forming the authority is the first step, and we think that this is obvious next step moving forward with it. So that is all the information that I have to present.